One California industry says that high taxes are actually killing their profits and fueling a rise in crime. We're talking about the cannabis industry. The legal market launched at the start of 2018 after California voters approved Prop 64 in 2016. Prop 64 was sold as a way to bring money into the state by taxing a product that people were already buying. Proponents said that it would lower demand for the illegal market and therefore reduce crime. Prop 64 also promised to right some of the wrongs of the war on drugs. So 4.5 years later into the legal market, how is Prop 64 living up to all those promises? ABC 10's Becca Habegger has the story.
I've never liked marijuana, but I'm voting yes on Prop 64.
It's better for public health, for law and order, and for society.
These ads ahead of the 2016 election show how those in favor of Prop 64 were selling it to California voters.
Prop 64 prohibits public use of marijuana, generates $1 billion in new revenues, limits sales to adults 21 and over, and only at licensed marijuana businesses.
It would make money for the state, lower demand for the illegal market, and increase the quality and safety of the product by setting and enforcing standards. Plus, it would give a leg up to aspiring cannabis business owners who would otherwise have the chips stacked against them, especially those with a past cannabis-related conviction or from neighborhoods disproportionately impacted by the war on drugs.
It's no secret that the war on drugs targeted, Black communities, community of colors. We were arrested at disproportionate rates, and we suffered the most.
Maisha Bahati is CEO of Crystal Nugs, a Black-owned, women-owned cannabis delivery business with plans to open a storefront dispensary in Sacramento next year.
For someone who doesn't come from money, we come from these underserved communities, it's a lot harder for us. But there are programs that are kind of opening up to kind of get us in the door. So I definitely am happy that more of us are trying to get in the industry.
She has successfully participated in Sacramento's Cannabis Opportunity Reinvestment and Equity, or CORE program, which she says helped launch her business.
I think that our CORE program in Sacramento is leaps and bounds ahead of most.
Josh Veal is CEO of Lumpy's Flowers in Sacramento, which holds cannabis cultivation and distribution licenses.
I'm someone that was in the industry that got a felony for cultivation, and yes, I deserve, an avenue to getting a license because I was in the industry beforehand. I was directly impacted.
But even with equity programs, he says,
it's a very, very tough industry to break into.
He applauds Sacramento's CORE program and the part of Prop 64 that allows people with previous cannabis-related convictions to reduce or even expunge their criminal record. But he says taxes and regulations, even with the help of equity programs, are making it nearly impossible to enter the market.
Since legal with the taxes and everything the way it is and regulations and doing all the building inspections and the building permits, I would say now if you were to start today, don't. To enter the space now, you would need no less than $1 million no matter what section you go into. Sales, distribution, retail, cultivation.
In Bahati's case, the legal market that allowed her to start her small business is the very thing now hurting it.
The taxes in California are insane for cannabis.
She says between state and local taxes, she's paying a combined rate of more than 35%.
Everything is taxed. Everything is overpriced. It does open the door for the illegal market to still thrive.
This district attorney agrees.
The illegal market was and continues to be swathed in criminal activity.
Nancy O'Malley is DA of Alameda County, which includes Oakland. At a virtual news conference earlier this year, she joined people from across the state and across cannabis-related industries, all calling for change to how the legal market is taxed and regulated.
It's much cheaper to sell on the black market. It's much cheaper than having to pay taxes. It's much cheaper than hiring skilled labor that can both work in the cultivation as well as in the stores. And the profit margin for the illegal sellers and the illegal operators is tremendously higher than that of those who are working in a legal environment. The cost of production is less because the illegal market growers are not following the health and safety regulations that are required for legal cannabis industry.
Adding to the problem, they say, is Prop 64 gives local governments the choice to opt out of allowing cannabis businesses. The California Department of Cannabis Control says more than half of cities and counties in the state have chosen to do just that. The department recently launched this tool for people to see where cannabis businesses are allowed and what type. The concern is that a lack of legal retailers in an area can leave a vacuum filled by the untaxed and unregulated illegal market.
Prop 64 generates $1 billion in new tax revenue revenue for California.
So let's look at that promise of state revenue. From 2018 through the first quarter of 2022, the state has collected more than $3.7 billion in cannabis tax revenue, and that doesn't include local taxes. But Rex Richardson, vice mayor of the city of Long Beach, thinks state and local governments could be raking in more money.
When other revenue sources went down, cannabis thrived.
That's after the city lowered taxes from 6% to 1% for cannabis manufacturers, distributors, and testing labs. That was just months before the pandemic began.
Our revenue shot through the roof after that.
After lowering taxes and with increased demand as people stayed home during the pandemic, the city of Long Beach generated $5.6 million more from cannabis fees and taxes in fiscal year 2020 than they did in 2019. And in fiscal year 21, they brought in an additional $1.8 million, according to city officials.
I think the lesson here for local government is that if cannabis taxes are causing restrictions on supply, you can actually increase your tax revenue by lowering the rates and getting rid of red tape and making sure you don't have as much of a restricted environment.
Not everyone agrees with that theory. Robert Harris, a lobbyist for SEIU, told Politico last year the union disagrees with the industry argument that reducing tax rates will spur growth and eventually boost tax revenue. I've never heard of an industry that didn't say, reduce our taxes, we'll sell more and you'll make more, he said.
Was Blue Dream a pre-roll?
Yeah, it's a pre-roll.
Bahati, however, is in favor of tax reform in her industry.
We are advocating to the state that they have to look at that. If they want regulated businesses to thrive, then you have to make us competitive.
For the good of our state, regulating the process and the ultimate sale to consumers of cannabis is important. However, let's not tax those legal operations right out of the market.
And state lawmakers are considering several bills right now that aim to improve California's cannabis industry. Of course, we'll continue to follow this story closely in the months to come. We'll be right back after this break.